Today we're talking about how to use a pace chart.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Coach Quip. I'm Coach Robyn.
I'm Coach Chris.
And this is episode 195. We feel very strongly about using a pace chart and knowing your pace ranges. I think when people see ours, it's very pretty. It's colored like the rainbow. It has a bunch of columns. We will put it, especially if you're listening, we will have a link to it, I'm sure, in the notes, but then definitely on the YouTube, we're going to be able to display it up a bunch. But it's a huge thing for you to use to dial in your fitness. I know we have an athlete right now that he's been a member for about a year, and he's training with us for the first season. And his mind is a little blown because he's like, wow, I don't just run all my runs at one pace. Like I have different paces, and now I know what the columns mean and how to use them. Most people will get a couple weeks of premium for free in Training Peaks, and it's very cute because they put comments in, and then of course during that trial I get the comments, so it's very fun for me to read them because I'm really learning what I'm not lurking, okay? It's getting emailed to me because I'm the attached coach, but it's very cool to see how they feel running these different intensities because they actually know what their pace card and their pace color band looks like.
Yeah. So let's talk first about why you would need a pace card. In our last episode, we were talking about the different types of workouts and how to schedule your workouts, and we talked about our three pillars, which are our tempo runs, our speed runs, and the king, our long run. And when we have our quality workouts, we often inject different pacing in our quality workouts. So we have our easy AF pace, and we did an episode in the past about that, and we'll probably do another episode coming up about easy AF pace. That's your casual chat pace. But then we also have our 5K pace, our 10K pace, our tempo, half marathon, and marathon paces, and we do work, particularly like speed work, at those different intervals of pacing. So you need to know your pace card so that you can appropriately do those workouts if you're following our plan. And I would say even if you're downloading a plan off the internet, you're still going to see some speed work in there that's going to use and reference these paces. So that's why you need to know what your pace card is.
A lot of marathoners, I'm not even going to say new marathoners, they don't realize how little time we actually spend training at marathon pace, right?
Yeah.
So high level view, the base of your miles are going to be those easy AF miles, right? Because we run easy multiple times a week, and it's the base of most of our long run too. We just have color in the long run, but still the majority of those miles is still easy AF. So that's much slower. For us, it's marathon plus 45 to 90 seconds. Yeah. On the complete other end of the spectrum, you've got 5K mile pace, right? We spend a lot of time running faster than marathon pace and running slower than marathon pace. We will add in more marathon pace miles as we progress in the second half of training. We always have kind of like a notable shift in our training that we write, but you still don't spend that much time there, and then you race somewhere in the middle. And we do that by building truly like a complete engine at both ends so that you can really kind of like function very, very well at marathon intensity. So but you got to know what your paces are in order to take advantage of building that complete engine.
Yeah, so let's talk about how to find your paces. We have this beautiful colored pace chart, or whatever crummy looking pace chart you found online. Ours is pretty beautiful.
Ours is pretty.
So how do we find those paces and what color band you should fall in? Step number one is to test your current fitness. And let's just say this before we get started. There is going to be a difference between your current fitness and your goal fitness. In most cases.
It should be. If you're starting the season at your peak fitness, we have a problem.
If that's the case, you need to adjust your goals and make them more aggressive.
Yes.
So your current fitness is going to be different than your goal fitness. So that begs the question, do we start, where should we be training at?
You should be training at your current fitness.
At your current fitness. So in order to train at our current fitness, we need to know what that current fitness is and get our pace card from there. So if you have a recent race time, you can plug that into a calculator, or if you have your best guess of what a recent race.
Along with the plugging in your best guess, you don't have to sign up for a race, right? Like I know a lot of the coaches on the Edge Coaching Consortium use the 2 mile or the 10 minute time trial. And that's a really great way. They're very hard, but they don't leave as much of a mark as a 5K. You can do them anytime. You can find a friend to help pace you, and you can get a really great number that we can create and update a fresh pace card from.
Yeah, and if you haven't done one of these tests, you have a recent pace that you just run all your runs at, the Macmillan calculator also has a spot for that. It's not the most accurate, but it can get you started on a pace card. So for our edge athletes, we would just take that race result, find where it is on the chart, and plug that in.
Step 2, which is to find your color, right? So in general, you are going to identify heavily with one color band, of course, and that's going to be your initial color that you're going to train with, right? Same as if you are training on your own or training and not, using a group that has a colored pace chart, you're going to plug it in and you're going to have mile, 5K, 10K, tempo, maybe 13.1, 26.2, and easy, all kind of, those are yours. That's your starting line, right? Get ready to dance on those lines in order to improve them.
So step number 3 would be to adjust as you need to if you happen to fall in between two colors, and you could adjust that based on your strengths. So when we talk about runners, we say there are a couple of different types of runners. Macmillan also uses this terminology. We have our endurance monsters, who are better suited to the longer stuff, the half marathons, or ultras. We have our speed monsters, who do really great at 5Ks and 10Ks, but have a harder time holding on to the longer pacing chart, longer distances. And then we have a combo runner that's kind of can mix and match.
What are you?
I think I'm combo.
Combo.
Yeah.
I'm definitely endurance. I can train for speed, but I have to work at it. But endurance, all day. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm on both teams, long course and short course.
I like that. That's true. That's a good point. That's fair. Touche. So am I. Just kidding. How to know if you're an endurance monster, right? This is going to be where you look at the pace chart and you're like, yeah, I could rock that half and full pace. I got this. But then you're like, oh, F, when you're looking at the speed paces, right? And you know that you're probably going to struggle. In that case, let's say, again, color for us goes red, orange, yellow, green, blue, purple. So let's pretend that you look pretty good at yellow. You're feeling really good about the endurance, but you're a little freaked out by the speed. I would actually start and do a hybrid where you're doing orange for speed and then yellow for endurance for a while. Again, you got to dance on the line that you can really kind of nail before you try to move up.
Yeah, and vice versa. If you are better at the speed and have a struggle with the endurance, you would just tick that back one pace group. But you had talked a lot about dancing on the line. So for folks who are in between, how do you recommend that they get that level up to make a complete pace band? A complete pace band, which is really cool, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, I can say like, oh, speed takes me a little bit of effort to do because I'm an endurance monster, but at the end of the day, I'm working on a weakness, right? And I can make very quick gains on that weakness by doing the work. So let's pretend that I am truly a yellow pace color for endurance and I am working on orange for the speed. I would probably, again, we do 3 build weeks, 1 recovery week. I would do a full 4 weeks on that orange before I try to jump up. So my guess, again, speed adaptations also happen pretty fast. So my guess is that after 4 weeks, you're like, oh wow, I'm feeling a lot better doing this pace, even though the intervals are longer. Maybe week 5, you give it a little testy poo, and you do half of the workout. Let's say it's 5 4-minute efforts. You would do, the first 2.5 of them at orange and then do the second 2.5 at yellow so that you're really progressing and making it faster and you're testing the waters. If that goes well, then the following week you do 75% of the new color band and then you're usually lifted all the way up. It is important though when you're trying to level up to that next color, you want to, just like racing, we want to do it progressively. So let's say you're like, all right, it's July 7th. I'm going to go for, today's my day. I'm going to try to do half of these 5K repeats at my slower and half of them at my faster. You want to do them in that order. Because otherwise, if you try to do the faster first, you're going to flood your body with way too much lactic acid and it's going to make the second half a lot harder than it needs to be. If you've done what we think you've done in the first 4 weeks of training, say, your body's gotten a lot better at recovering and clearing, which is going to make the harder pace more doable in the second half. All right, so we have step number 1 is to test your current fitness and find those paces. Step 2 is to apply it to the chart and find your color. Step 3 is to adjust as needed depending on if you are a speed person or an endurance person. And that brings us to step 4. So after you've used this pace chart for 4 to 6 weeks, maybe 8 weeks, we want to retest. And so retesting, again, can be using a 5K or a recent race result. This is awesome too if you're racing a marathon and you have the opportunity to do a half marathon. You get a little bit closer to your actual pace chart for your goal event. But using any of those or using a tempo workout to gauge how your fitness is going and then see if you have leveled up.
Yeah, I think that's a really great call out. Like a lot of times you can look at the info that's happened in your tempo runs, especially because that's pretty darn close to how you're going to be racing, and just see, is my heart rate lower? How do I feel? Mm-hmm. Is it time for me to kind of bubble up?
So let's talk about bubbling up then. How do you move up in a pace chart aside from retesting? There are a couple of strategies that as you're training you want to use. The first one would be to run with people. So we know that the draft horse effect is real, and there is huge value to running with people to keep you on your paces, keep you accountable, and to get you faster.
And truly, this should be the only thing that we say of how to move up. There's no better way of getting faster than running with people who are similarly paced to you, or maybe even paced slightly faster than you. Mm-hmm. I love training speed with people who are speed monsters because they do it so effortlessly that I can kind of suck wind at the back until I feel a little bit better week on week, and then I can hang with them more, right? Draft horse effect, I feel like we've covered a couple times, but it goes like this. If you have a draft horse on its own, it can tow about 4,000 pounds. That's a lot, right? Mm-hmm. If you put 2 draft horses side by side with no training, so they just match Coach Chris and I up, we've never met each other, it instantly, you'd think it'd be 8, right? 16,000 pounds. And if you train them together, they can actually tow up to 32,000 pounds. So it becomes this multiplier of I'm beside you, I'm going to work with you. When you're down, I'm up. When I'm up, you're down. And it's just frankly so much more fun.
I just had an athlete tell me about their race experience where they were going back and forth with a person in a race, and they just came up to them, and this is, kudos to our Edge group for doing this, came up to this person and was like, hey, do you want to be friends? Let's work together. And they worked together. When one was strong, the other was falling back. Hey, get up here.
And
they were able
a big difference.
It was a big PR for them too.
That's awesome.
Very cool.
Another way to move up is, I've kind of alluded to it already, but look at your data, right? Chances are you're wearing a wearable here, right? So look at your average heart rate. If mileage is getting longer and intervals are getting longer, and God bless, it's probably going to get hotter, right? Your average heart rate, if it's staying the same or getting lower and you're maintaining or gaining speed, it's likely time to bubble up. If things start to feel too easy, it's time. I have an athlete she's a relatively new marathoner, last few years. She's nowhere near her potential, which is great, right? Did her first 2, her second one was super hot, and she was training this spring for her 3rd. I think that's her 3rd, but this was the first one where honestly we were going for a big ass jump, like a 25-minute jump in her marathon time. And 2/3 of the way through training, she admitted, she's like, marathon pace is feeling really easy. And I was like, great. It was actually Q1, so I remember being like, well, we don't have that many racing opportunities. Let's just adjust your pace card where we think where it needs to be. And she operates off of ranges, and we hit it. Yeah. And so again, it's that little voice in your head where you're like, wow, I did that a little too handedly. It's probably time to bubble up.
Yeah, and that's consistently, right? So we might all have one day that feels effortless and one day that feels really, really hard. If you have those days that feel really hard, it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to bump back a pace card. You might just be having a bad day.
Absolutely, right? Yeah. This is all trends that you're noticing.
Exactly. And our final tip for you to be thinking about as we're talking about pace cards is just that distance between your current pace and your goal pace. Particularly right now, as a lot of folks listening to this are 16 weeks or 14 weeks from their goal marathon in the fall. Do you use your current pace or do you train at your goal pace? I know we said this at the top, but just to close the loop on this, you want to train at your current pace and then go through the steps that we've listed to level up. If you start to train at your goal pace, you will fry yourself.
Yeah, you will. It is if they're just a little bit apart. To your point, you probably should choose a harder goal. Mm-hmm. But if it's a significant, from a marathon standpoint, if it's 10 minutes faster, you're going to want to ease into that. Because think about it. We're starting the season. It's hot. You're more likely doing more volume than you have been. You might be doing more specificity than you have been. You don't also need to be going too fast and fry yourself out. We have to be aerobic, appropriately aerobic, in order to build strong endurance systems.
All right, so there you have it. That is how to use a pace card for your marathon training, or any training that you're doing, actually. But for our marathoners right now, you're going to want to latch onto that pace card, find your color, find your people to train with, and get out there so that you can level up.
Till next time.
Thanks for listening to Coach Quip. Original music performed by Mend. Follow us online on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at Edge Athlete Lounge. Our podcast lives in the blog section of our website. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review this podcast, and you can check out the show notes for additional ways to contact us. Ready, set, onward we go.